This is the Stack Safety Program running at Sir John A. Macdonald. I just wanted to quickly go over some of the safety features that must be followed when operating machinery at the school. First off, when you're setting up your shop, you have to make sure that all access points are unobstructed, meaning that emergency exits and emergency eye wash stations and fire extinguishers are all easily accessible, and there's lots of room around the machinery to get the job done. Also, make sure you clean as you go and keep walkways clear just in case there's an emergency. Let's try and avoid slips, trips, and falls. The first thing you need to do is make sure you're wearing laced up shoes that have non-slip soles. So sandals, open toe shoes, or hard plastic soles are not going to cut it. You need to make sure that you have stable rubber bottom shoes that lace up, that have full coverage on the top of your foot. Just in case something drops on your foot, you know you're going to be okay. If there's any spills, they need to be cleaned up right away. Let the teacher know too, let me know, and let the other students know in the area that there was a spill, just in case they wander into the area and they don't realize that they may slip and fall. So let's avoid that at all costs. Wherever you're working, clean up your debris as you go before you move on to another station. Don't leave messes around the room. If there are any burned out light bulbs or inadequate lighting anywhere in the room, please let me know, and I'll let the administrator know and the custodial staff so they can help make sure the lights are working, because bad lighting can affect our ability to get our work done safely. Too much sawdust or other materials, any types of dust on the floor could lead to very slippery conditions regardless of the type of shoe we're wearing, so we do have to clean up as we go. Electrical safety. We'll probably be using glue guns or different materials that require extension cords at times. Before you start using a tool, check the cords, make sure they're not frayed or cut. If they are, don't use them, hand them in, and I'll put them out of service until they're repaired or until new ones are brought in. Portable hand tools got to be used with a ground plug, meaning if there isn't a ground, then the cords have to be double insulated. If you're not sure, let me have a look at it and I'll approve it for use. If I don't approve it for use, you should not be using it in the room. What else? Position machines and activities to minimize the cords running along the floor. That means don't have cords extending from a station across the floor blocking a walkway, because it creates a trip hazard, meaning the device, if it was a hot glue gun, could come flinging out of your arms as someone kicks the cord, and it could burn you or someone else in the area. So please try and keep cords stretched across walkways to a minimum. So work close to where you want to get the task done. Make sure you're getting the task done close to the outlet, so you're not stretching cords across the room. General housekeeping. Store tools in a safe way. When you're not using the tools, put them away. Don't leave them lying around. Again, if it's a cluttered workstation, you're more likely to get hurt. I'll make sure that I flush eye wash stations weekly so I know it's working. Just in case you do get something in your eye, let the other students know in the area, and let me know right away so that I can move you quickly to the eye wash station and we can flush it out. I'll be showing all of you how to use it properly, so that if a situation happened when I wasn't there and you needed to flush eyes out, you would know how to do it. Again, I can't stress this enough. Put the equipment back where it belongs, where you found it, when you're done with it. And please don't block fire extinguishers or the eye wash station with your equipment. They have to be accessible at all times. Machine guarding is meant to protect you. Do not remove it. Make sure you use it to keep yourself safe when you're operating machinery. The guards are there to protect you. Please try and keep your fingers outside of the danger zone. Do not put your fingers beyond the guards, because if you move your fingers inside the guard, you're moving your fingers toward moving parts, and you're more likely to make contact, and you don't want to contact the moving parts. That's when injuries occur. For the bandsaw, make sure you keep both feet flat on the floor, shoulder width apart. You need to make sure your material is positioned flat on the saw table, and plan your cut in advance. Don't try and plan your cut as you're making it, because if you make a mistake, you may become uncertain with what you're trying to do or try and back out of the cut, and that could lead to damaging the machine or making it behave in a way that you weren't prepared for, and you may end up getting hurt. So when you're doing your cutting, don't force through the cut. Take your time, plan it out in advance, and let the blade do the work. With the bandsaw in particular, you don't want your fingers any closer than 30 centimeters to within range of the saw blade. There are push tools. They're meant to be used to help you move the wood close to the blade and keep your hand away. So please use the push tools at all times if you need to get any closer than 30 centimeters to the blade. Let the push tool do it, not your hand. If you're using the scroll saw, make sure your fingers are no closer than 15 centimeters from the blade, and again, use the push tools to help you. Don't put your fingers in harm's way. The strike pad or the stop button can be hit with either your hand or your leg. Make sure that you strike the stop button with the bandsaw before you back your blade out. If you try and back your blade out with the saw on, the blade might come right off of the guide wheels, and that could lead to some buckling of the blade. It might move inappropriately, and it could startle you. So you need to make sure that you stop the blade before you back out of the cut. Same thing with the scroll saw. Don't try and force the blade back through a cut line that you've already made. Stop it, and then you can walk it back smoothly and safely when the blade is stopped. With the drill press, balance and focus are really important. You need to make sure, again, feet are shoulder width apart, you're facing the machine, and the guard is blocking your eyes. You also can adjust the table to meet your cut or meet your drill needs. And when you do move the drill, move it at a slow, steady pace using the 3-armed cantilevered system on the right of the machine. When you set the drill bit, set it so that it has 3-point contact with the machine. You would use the drill chuck to do that. There's a rule that you could remember. Righty-tighty, that means when you're turning the drill chuck to the right, you're going to be tightening the drill bit into the machine. When you turn the chuck to the left, you're loosening the 3-point contact on the drill bit, so the drill bit will come out of the machine. Again, make sure that you tighten at all 3 holes on the drill itself to guarantee that the drill bit is snugly tight inside the machine, so the bit won't fall out. If you're using whatever type of material you're drilling into, make sure it's secured, or make sure you can help secure it while you're drilling. That means you should be standing to the left of your material if you have a larger board, so that you can help prevent the board from being kicked out or bumping. You don't want it to move away from you or move too far away, up or down or left or right. So you can use your body to help support the material while you're drilling, but ideally you want to vise the material. Use a vise to attach the material to the table so it's not going to jump up and down or move left to right. For sanding, the guards are in place again to protect you, and only expose as much of the sand disc or the belt as required to complete your task. Do not expose yourself to the moving parts if you don't have to. So if you're only working with a 1/2-inch piece of wood, expose a little bit more than 1/2 inch of the sander by lifting the guard up if you're working with the disc sander, or sorry, the orbital sander. The direction of rotation is important. You have to make sure that your material that you're sanding is striking the sand disc on the downward stroke. Because if you try and hit it on the upward stroke, your material is actually going to lift off of the table, and you're more likely, if you're leaning on your material, to lean into and fall into the sander disc itself, and that's where injuries can happen. So please make sure you keep your material flat on the table, and you want your material to strike the disc on the downward stroke. That way you avoid the material leaving your hand unexpectedly. When you're finished, or while you're working on the sanding, make sure you keep your fingers again at least 15 centimeters away. Use tools to help you hold the material. You can use clamps because it gives you a little bit more leeway away from the sander, protecting your fingers. When you're done, make sure you stop the machine, reset the guards back in place, and clean up any dust before you leave the machine area. That way you avoid slipping hazards, and you make sure that the machine is prepared and ready for anybody else that wants to use it next.